Greetings, Internet faithful. I am some guy named Rob, and welcome to Rob Recaps Raw, I'd call it the drive-by edition, but I'm not driving right now. I'm sitting in the parking garage in downtown Ottawa, Ontario. I'm a few minutes away from my office. I'm working in the office in Ottawa this week, so recording videos at home. I don't really have a whole lot of time for that, and it's been just a little bit noisier than usual at home, so chances are for this week the recaps are going to look a lot like this. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure that the audio and video is up to snuff for all of you. This video is going to be very short for Monday Night Raw because not a whole lot happened. I was very disappointed in this episode of Monday Night Raw. In fact, I was chatting a bit with Lee during the show, and really there wasn't a whole lot that was memorable. I think the best spot of the whole show for me was actually the Moment of Bliss promo with Alexa Bliss kind of playing the role of a victim of bullying by Nia Jax to kind of set up their rematch at Backlash for the Raw Women's Championship. Other than that, I was very underwhelmed by the whole thing. A lot of the segments that were meant, I guess, to come off as humorous just really fell flat to me. The promo, even from the opening promo, now I'm not going to count the Bruno Sammartino tribute. I thought that was really good. In spite of it having entirely too much Roman Reigns in it, I thought it was a pretty good promo. From the opening bit with Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman doing absolutely everything he can to try and paint Brock as the world's worst heel, as the worst thing ever to happen to wrestling, to make the fans hate him as much as possible. You still couldn't get a unified cheer for Roman Reigns when he came out toward the end of the promo. Roman came out slowly to a decidedly mixed reaction from the crowd in St. Louis. He could not even get the full-on cheap Mick Foley pop for announcing the name of the city. They pulled out every trick they could to try and get Roman Reigns over, and it did not work. Roman came out, he mumbled out about 3 or 4 lines about what was going to happen on Friday at the Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia, and then walked out of the ring, constantly looking over his shoulder to see if Brock was coming out to beat the shit out of him. It didn't make Roman Reigns look very credible as a challenger, to be perfectly honest. The crowd was just not entertaining the idea that Roman Reigns should be the Universal Champion. I don't know why they don't give up on this experiment and try and find someone new, because unless they're planning to make Roman Reigns a transitional champion, I can see this ending only in disaster. There's probably going to be people canceling their subscriptions to the network. Buy rates for pay-per-views are probably going to tank. I don't see this working out well for business for the WWE, because Roman Reigns is not ratings. He is not Roman ratings, that's for sure. He can't talk on the mic. His matches are not great. He can't carry anyone with his work rate. He needs somebody to carry him through a lot of the matches. And that's not what you want in a champion. That's not the guy that's going to be the face of the company. You need somebody who can take charge and be the man. And Roman Reigns just isn't it. As far as the rest of the show goes, it came off very much as a house show that was televised and not necessarily written for TV. It was just sort of written to be a house show. They just happened to be televising it. They did the really annoying thing again where midway through a match, they would just stop the whole match dead, put it into a little corner, and put up a much bigger promo for the Greatest Royal Rumble in the corner, when they didn't cut to a full screen promo for the Greatest Royal Rumble in the middle of a match. I don't get it. Why do you have to do this on a 3-hour show? Make your commercial break. Do it coming out of a commercial break. Do it going into a commercial break. You know you're going to have a commercial break, so you come out of the commercial break, and then you run your promo for the Greatest Royal Rumble, and then you cut back to the match. Oh my God, why don't we think of that? Why do I have to think of this? Why is it the guy that's recording a recap video in his car in a parking garage in downtown Ottawa have to do the job of a WWE writer? Speaking of the jobs of the writers, holy shit, who wrote the material? It's almost like they went to a comedy club for amateur hour, and they picked up 2 or 3 comedy writers and said, hey, can you write a few jokes about these guys? and then they took whatever submissions that were given to them, they shuffled the deck and then kind of handed them out between segments because everything seemed to need a joke or a punchline associated with it. Was not very good. I just wasn't into the show at all. Everything seemed very haphazard. Things just were kind of thrown together because they could be. It was just, let's kind of keep it in cruise control. Let's just kind of spin our wheels. Let's get through this week. Let's get to Saudi Arabia. Let's get our Saudi Arabia show done. And maybe we can set up something for Backlash, because the Backlash card is kind of up in the air. I don't know what the hell's going on with Backlash. There's nothing really set. The only thing I know that's set for sure is you have you have the Raw Women's Championship being defended at Backlash, and then you have Samoa Joe versus Roman Reigns at Backlash. Those are the only two that I know for sure, because everything else is still kind of up in the air. Like, what are they doing with the U.S. title? What are they doing with the IC title? What are they doing with this, that, and the other? I have no idea. And I suspect neither do they. I think they're waiting to see what happens in the aftermath of the Greatest Royal Rumble to try and figure out what might fly with the fans and maybe try and put together a show, salvage something like they did with Fastlane. Who knows? But they can't keep doing this. The product is really, really weak. I have a feeling that other than the novelty of the Greatest Royal Rumble being in Saudi Arabia with a crowd that's not a North American wrestling crowd, and I think having that many guys in the Royal Rumble, I think other than that novelty, the show itself is actually pretty pedestrian. It doesn't really, and then Backlash to me looks like it's shaping up to be maybe almost as good as Redemption was for Impact Wrestling, which is operating on like the budget of what WWE spends on catering. So I don't know what the hell is going on with that. And I understand that I'm kind of belaboring the same point over and over and over again, but that's kind of how this show felt too. It felt like a 3-hour commercial for Friday's pay-per-view in Saudi Arabia. And you know what? I'd rather watch Billy Mays infomercials. They're a lot more entertaining and they tell a better story. So hopefully SmackDown tonight is a little bit better. Hopefully the writers on SmackDown didn't take the night off. Hopefully they've got something nice up their sleeve. I'm kind of doubting it because they seem to be treating this like a go-home show for the Saudi Arabia pay-per-view, and go-home shows are never good. They're almost universally terrible. I don't think this is going to be much of an exception. But thankfully, the bar that was set by Monday Night Raw is not going to be too terribly hard to raise. So let's see what happens. Anyway, until the next video, take it easy.